Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Home Healing of My Emotions by Hadassah, where we fix what home broke and we believe that healing is possible. On today's episode, we'll be talking about unhelpful thinking styles, which I know a couple of us struggle with, but today I'm about to shed some light on how we can be aware of such thinking, unhelpful thinking patterns, and then we can strive to change that so that we only have patterns that are positive. So this space is all about mental wellness, it's about mental health, it's about emotional well-being. We are just striving here, we are just doing the inner work, we are putting ourselves first, and part of our soul care, as part of our self-care is our soul care. So here we just want to heal from inside out. We want the glow to come from inside out, not just what we put on us physically. And yeah, so I'll just get right into it. I picked these lessons from one of the sessions that I had with my therapist, and I found it to be amazing. I found it to be impactful, and it changed the way I see things and the way I also think myself. So she talked about different types of unhealthy or unhelpful thinking styles. And the first one was mental filter. So ideally, mental filter is like filtering in or filtering out. You can look at it as a funnel, and ideally is when somebody decides to only focus on one aspect of a situation, and most of the times it's the negative part. For example, you are taken out for dinner by your partner. It could be either way, the male or the female, and then while you are at that dinner, you realize that you disagree on maybe what tip to give the waiter or the waitress, and that disagreement escalates such that even on your way home you're still talking about that. One maybe was not of the opinion that the waiter or waitress should be tipped, and then when you get home, you are so mad, you are so agitated, you're so aggravated because of that one incident that happened. So you overlook the amazing night you had, you overlook the dinner, you overlook the gesture that maybe your partner had given you, had shown you, and you just choose to focus on the other side. So that is mental filtering. It is when somebody decides to only focus on one part of a situation. And then the second one is jumping into conclusion. So this one is very, very common, and sorry to say, women, we tend to jump into conclusions so fast. And even though it's important to tune into your intuition and to listen to what your intuition tells you, sometimes we have hunches, we have promptings, we have, like, our intuition is just so good. We have the sixth sense. For those of us in the Christian circles, we have discernment, and it's good to listen to it. But then jumping into conclusion is when somebody makes a conclusion without even evidence or facts to back up the conclusion that they have arrived in. But sadly is that when we jump into conclusions, we normally conclude something that is bad, something that is negative. So if someone is wired this way, if somebody's thought process is wired this way, then they easily jump into conclusions. And jumping into conclusions comes has two aspects. One is when you is predictive, where you think that a situation in future, you already conclude that a situation in future is going to turn out badly. And then the other one is mind reading, where you assume that you know what someone is thinking, and then from that you jump into a wrong conclusion. For example, you could just be with someone, you're having a chat, and then they decide to check on their clock or check on their phone, and immediately, or even yawn. Actually, yawning is very common. I've experienced that with my friend. Every time we're having a conversation and then I yawn, it's like he's always like, oh my god, I'm that boring, am I boring you? So that already is it's jumping into conclusion. Like, you've already put yourself in the mind of this person you are reading, that they are thinking that you're boring. And maybe sometimes that is not the case. Maybe they were expecting a message from someone, they were expecting an important call from someone, maybe they had another commitment that they wanted to attend to, and that's why they decided to look at their clock. So it's not always the negative side. Maybe you've called your partner the whole day and they are not responding to you, and you're already thinking they're up to something bad, something wrong, something that can hurt you. It's not always that way. So we can reframe that, we can change that, so that we stop jumping into conclusions. Unless you have justifiable evidence that could lead to that kind of conclusion, then it's important just to give people the benefit of the doubt and not jump into any conclusions. And then the other one is personalization. This is very sad and it's very impactful. It's so negative, it's so unhealthy, because personalization is when you take responsibility for factors that have happened externally, and you say, you blame yourself, you put that burden on yourself. We have so many people who are very sensitive, and so if something happens to them, they just decide to conclude that, well, maybe it's my fault that this happened. Some things that you cannot even control. So personalization is quite unhealthy, it's quite negative, it impacts even on your self-esteem, because it means that every time you're walking around in guilt. Have you ever been in a situation where somebody has wronged you, but you're the one who is apologizing, because you're already thinking it is they behave the way they behave because you did something? So that's quite an unhealthy thinking style, that someone needs to, like, be kind to themselves, distinct, separate factors. Okay, so what you are responsible for, that one you take responsibility and you acknowledge. But if some external factors happen, like let's say you are to meet someone. For example, recently I was supposed to meet someone for coffee. We were supposed to have a chat, and then when I was just leaving the house, the Uber driver told me, the roads have been closed because there are some riots that have been going on over a cop that who just decided to kill people. So I had to rain check. I had to tell them I cannot make it. And then if I decided when I came back home that, oh my God, I'm such a bad person, I had promised these people to that I would meet them at that time and I did not manage, then that is bearing too much of a burden, placing too much of a burden on myself, because that was entirely an external factor that I did not have I didn't have control over. So personalization is quite impactful on a person, and it affects them at a personal level, and it also affects their self-esteem. Then the other unhealthy pattern is catastrophing. So catastrophing is where you just decide to think of something that is just the negative. For example, I've seen this a lot when somebody Googles something, it's equivalent to that. Maybe you're just having a headache or you're coughing, and then you just check what that could be on Google, and Google just gives you the worst of diagnoses in this world. It tells you cancer, it tells you the big words. So that is the equivalent of catastrophing, where you get maybe into an altercation with your partner, and then you're already thinking this is over, it has ended, and it was just a simple misunderstanding. That is catastrophing, where you over magnify one situation and you make it so big, and it's like it is that way, and it cannot be changed. So for people who over magnify things, that one is not healthy, and it's important that somebody reframes that and just take things with in the stride. So if, let's say, it's an argument that you had with someone, you strive to solve it, and you're like, if you think about differently, you reframe. And reframing, we have said, is the story that you tell yourself. So you choose to tell yourself something positive. You choose to tell yourself that we can actually work this out, we can actually get to the other side, and we can get into an agreement. Then the other unhelpful thinking pattern is black and white situations, and we know that life is not black and white. I know God's intention was for the world to be a good place, to be a healthy place, but we are fallen, we are sinful, we we live in a very imperfect world, and we really don't have ideals. So for someone who thinks in a black and white way, for them it's either that or the other, or the other. It cannot be either way, and we know that in life there are so many gray areas, and we move with them because it's not always the way we want things to go. Yeah, so also thinking in black and white is quite too much of a burden to give someone, because to place on yourself, because you're thinking it can only be this way or that way. So let's say, for example, you always wanted to get married and have children in the confines of marriage, and then if it does not happen that way, maybe you get a child before, you now start thinking that you now start living in guilt because that did not happen, and even the possibility maybe of ever getting married, you feel like that one is gone. It's a window that you missed. It's an opportunity that slipped your way. But no, that's not the case. We have heard so many people who have stories of getting remarried and such kind of things. Maybe you don't get your dream job, but either way you have something that you're doing, but then now you're feeling that your life is over because you never be happy because things did not happen the way they did. So I can just say that things are not black and white. Sometimes God gives us something different, and we can, if we make good use of it, if we are positive, it works out perfectly well for us. And then the other one, the next unhealthy thinking pattern is masking and shielding. I don't think that is correct English, but it's just derived from should and must. So should and must is when you put conditions for yourself that I must succeed. You don't give yourself the margin of error. For you, it's I should, I must. And then if you don't give that, then you feel like you're a failure, you feel like you don't achieve anything. And so shielding and masking is a very tough way of looking at ourselves. It's like placing demands. It's over expecting so much from you. It's putting yourself on a pedestal, and then if you don't live up to, it becomes catastrophic for you. It beats you up heavily. So shielding and mastings should be countered by giving yourself some grace, understanding that you can fail, appreciating that you don't have to succeed every time, appreciating that you don't have to be everything at the same time. Yeah, just giving yourself some grace. And then the final one is overgeneralization. Overgeneralization is quite unhealthy, because then it means you look at things in a certain way, and you assume that the experience you had previously, maybe with a job, maybe with a boss, maybe with a partner, it will be the same. Or maybe with clients, you now extrapolate it to the future, and you assume that is how it's going to be. So that is those are the unhelpful healthy patterns that I shared with my therapist shared with me, and I found them to be very applicable, very practical, that a lot of us could be falling in either of those categories. And maybe just what I can say is that let's be kind to ourselves. Let's extend some grace to ourselves, and just give ourselves a margin of error. I'm not saying that we approach life in that angle where we are only we give ourselves too much grace and we are allowing ourselves to fail. But all I'm saying is that give yourself grace. If you attempt something and it doesn't work out, just look at it as one of the ways that thing does not work, instead of thinking that now it can never work, it can never be either way. Yeah, so I am really praying that we are going to renew our minds, we are going to adopt healthy patterns, and we are going to be gracious to ourselves. Even God has extended some grace to us. It's time we also extend some grace to ourselves. That marks the end of my video. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm always encouraging you, if you feel that this content resonates with you, if you feel that this content is impactful in your life, kindly subscribe, kindly share it with somebody else. Let us reach so many people, so that we can all raise a healed generation. We can heal so that we heal other people. And also, like this content, it works with the algorithm with YouTube. It helps, it pops, it makes it easier for many people to be reached when we like. And also hit the notification bell so that you're notified every time I post, which is on Thursdays. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, bye bye, shalom, God bless you.